It broke my heart to put that tumor in her head. What?
Back in the cage, P13.
You hit like a girl.
This isn't love. You're a terrible father.
Yep, you guessed it. Daddy issues. Guardians of the Galaxy was probably the most stylistic of the Marvel bunch. Director James Gunn struck gold with his over-the-top, musically inclined and personally touching franchise about family, friendship, and overcoming trauma. It was a treat to see the zaniness of the comic book world explored through the intergalactic reaches of the Marvel Universe, the camp and silliness that we should expect from superpowered titans, dressed in leotards that fight against the forces of evil. Somewhere in between an American hero who fights against Nazis and a billionaire philanthropist whose conscience emerges from dealings with terrorists is the heart of the series Peter Quill, whose arc extends through the 3 films of the franchise and their accompanying cameos in the extended MCU. His journey is about finding family after the loss of his own early in his childhood. This theme is actually one of Gunn's strongest recurring elements in his flicks, and in this essay we'll explore how he uses this thematic direction to get to the heart of superhuman tragedy.
If I didn't finish a task right, he would dole out the punishment. And one day he just locked me in a crate for 24 hours, and it was full of starving rats.
What's embarrassing is having you as my father.
Yeah, well.
That's my dad.
Of course, Gunn isn't the first to use this type of family dynamic, but he does it so well that even characters we've never heard of before shine both critically and commercially. Maybe he should have directed the recent Star Wars output, given Kylo Ren's misgivings with Han Solo. As he takes the reins of the new DC cinematic universe and its latest iteration of the character we all know and love by the name of Superman, I'm hopeful that this time, it's the movie we've all been waiting for.
I don't consider myself a director over being a storyteller. I'm a storyteller first. And that means whatever way I'm able to tell that story, I'm okay. I have this conversation.
So, let's dive right in. It occurred to me when watching the most recent Suicide Squad that a stand-in for the director in this film was Ratcatcher 2. And she spells out Gunn's filmmaking philosophy in as little words.
If I die because I gambled on love, it will be a worthy death. Friends.
Ratcatcher 2, despite her naive idealism, is the only character in the film that has a healthy relationship with her father. In every movie, Gunn explores the impact of a nurturing childhood on positive life outcomes. The way that Star-Lord is morally ambiguous, having been raised by bounty hunters, or Gamora's life as a mercenary from being a child of Thanos. In this way, Ratcatcher is akin to Batman, where the tragedy that befell their parents was outside of their control. But, in the case of Bruce, he maintains the moral compass of Thomas and Martha Wayne. In the newest Batman, Pattinson's Bruce Wayne suffers from a mental breakdown at the consideration that his father had ties to the mob.
Did you kill him? For my father? Look.
It shatters his understanding of the world and brings into question his mission as a Caped Crusader. Gunn argues that nurture is what matters, similarly to how Bruce had access to the legacy of his parents still, through his guardian, Alfred.
They'd love it here, don't you think? Who? Mom and Dad. They'd be so proud of you. Just drive.
Who continued to direct the young Bruce through the traumatic moments in his life. We can always overcome our traumas to make something better of ourselves and the lives of those that we care about. Using this backdrop of a world of superhumans, we have the perfect hyperbole to rally home these points, which Gunn uses to great effect. With the advent of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, we saw the Hollywood machine turn to more serious imaginings of their DC stable. Who better to steer in this direction than Zack Snyder, coming off with the success of Watchmen? He decides to explore the turmoil of being a superhuman while pretending to be human as the main conflict in Man of Steel. This version of the hero is reluctant, and bitter, unable to save those even closest to him for fear of outing himself as an alien.
He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. I'm sorry I didn't do none of it right. I'm damn lucky you, my boy.
I think we all have to agree that Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent had no reason to die from the tornado considering Clark's super speed, and it was pretty silly to make this the crux of the film's conflict. It made Clark's ability a curse instead of the gift he could give to the world, which was contrary to the things that even his father was telling him.
But you're not just anyone, Clark, and I have to believe that you were sent here for a reason.
The great thing about Clark Kent isn't that his motivation comes from tragedy, like a Peter Parker or a Bruce Wayne, but it comes from the love that he has for the peaceful life that his parents have carved out for him, a life that he wants everyone to be able to live, one that he believes humanity is fully capable of providing for each other.
Zod can't be trusted. The problem is, I'm not sure if the people of Earth can be either.
This is the hope that Zack Snyder's films want to capture, but instead we get Superman's first recorded kill on screen, 90 minutes of wandering through countryside, and some really cool shots of his ability. Now, don't get me wrong, if they bring back Snyder only to film the fight scenes, I'd be plenty happy. It was spectacularly choreographed. But this interpretation of the hero wasn't new at the time of Man of Steel. Kill Bill has one of my favorite meditations on the topic of Superman, where Bill describes the protagonist Beatrix Kiddo as Superman-like.
Superman didn't become Superman. Superman was born Superman. When Superman wakes up in the morning, he's Superman. His alter ego is Clark Kent.
In Tarantino's take, he believes that Superman is the true identity, or his nature, having been born wrapped in the cape that he comes to wear as a fully realized hero. He argues that Superman has to hide who he truly is through Clark Kent, and once he dons the blue and red, does he actually become himself. This interpretation looks at Superman's attempt at humanity through the guise of Clark Kent as shackles he's placed on himself to fit in.
What Kent wears, the glasses, the business suit, that's the costume. That's the costume Superman wears to blend in with us.
I've never seen this side of you, Clark.
That's why I like coming home for the holidays. I can just relax and be myself.
Okay, everybody, I'm turning on.
I would argue that it's the opposite. That Clark Kent is who Kal-El aspires to be. The hero that always does what's right, who always puts others before himself. The Boy Scout that still believes in Santa Claus.
We used to wrap his presents in lead foil so he couldn't peek.
You mean Santa wrapped them?
Oh, of course, dear.
Clark Kent is how Superman views us. And what are the characteristics of Clark Kent? He's weak. He's unsure of himself. He's a coward. Clark Kent is Superman's critique on the whole human race.
Modest, comically uncoordinated, human. In short, you're everything he's not.
These are all stemming from the love and beliefs that Jonathan and Martha Kent have instilled in the young Clark, far before his awakening as a superhuman. An understanding of Krypton as an imperial state, Kal-El is probably unlike most Kryptonians. As a matter of fact, his legacy as a hero makes him Krypton's greatest export. By every definition, you can say that he's not a super Kryptonian. We have an example of this foil in Zod, who seeks to abuse his power and conquer, just like the Kryptonians of old.
For what purpose? So that Krypton can live again. On Earth.
But even without his powers, Clark Kent is a journalist who reports on local and global injustices to promote an equitable world that cares for its weak and downtrodden. Superman is an extension of Clark Kent, and by that lens, his ideals. What has me excited about this next phase of DC's cinematic universe with James Gunn helming the direction is exactly that. His focus on the roots of a character's traits.
As imperfect my father was, he loved me.
So for Clark Kent, or Kal-El, his childhood trauma and learning he's not of this earth to be explored with the sincerity benefiting the symbol of hope that is Superman. He carries the legacy of a destroyed race and he dons their fabrics proudly to protect his adopted home. The tragedy of recent interpretations of Superman have been the sort of dread and burden that the character carries, despite the big hope on the middle of his chest.
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
You never get that feeling of earnest idealism in the Snyderverse. Kal-El is not Dr. Manhattan, and no matter how great of a deconstruction of the superhero genre that Watchmen was, it misses the mark in making a god complex the conflict with a character like Clark Kent.
Ding dong. The god is dead.
Even though we've unfortunately lost a great actor in Henry Cavill, a reimagining of the man who has everything is sorely needed. Not a gritty, hardened version of the hero that the world has already adored for decades, wrapped in a desaturated color palette. One that embraces its unabashedly camp origins with sincerity.
DC, favorite movie of all time. DC movie.
First Superman. I mean,
It's time we show respect to the little boy that learned he was an outsider, an alien, but despite this knowledge, does his best to live by and preserve the ideals of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
I have fought hard over the years to earn your trust, and I solemnly swear to all of you that I will continue to uphold the ideals of truth and justice, not just for America, but for all the world.
That Lex Luthor isn't trying to protect the world from a perceived threat, but really he's just jealous that someone not from his home planet can embody the ideals of its people better than him.
Next to Superman, even Lex Luthor's greatness is overshadowed.
Something much more relatable today than any time before.
What does this mean for the thousands of refugees now caught up in a personal purgatory?
Referring to the leaders of Germany who are allowing all these refugees in.
We want a Europe free from fear, free from terror.
Conservative anti-immigrant parties are on the rise. Many of them escaping war zones, only to now be confronted with a wave of assaults and arson attacks.
Right on the border.
All the while with their eyes on the prize.
Germany, we're going to stop at Germany.
Germany.
What kind of life do you think you'll have there?
The same way it was immigrants and aliens that built the foundations for such a belief to be expressed in the first place. It's Clark that maintains a symbol of hope in the hearts of Americans, and he does it with a work ethic akin to a first-generation immigrant. He's proof to the citizens of Earth that it doesn't matter where you come from. It's about where you are and how you carry yourself, despite your circumstances.
So you're not such a Boy Scout after all.
Never even made it to my first merit badge.
My favorite Marvel movie is Into the Spider-Verse.
People love that movie. Yeah, everybody loves that movie.
It's great.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. You haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse?
I know. I'm going to see it.
Oh, dude, it's the best superhero movie ever made.
Really?
I think so.
I want to thank you all who stayed tuned in. I hope you can give me a like, subscribe, and comment if you appreciated anything about this video. Feel free to explore my channel more for other essays. If you're so inclined, my Patreon is set up now to help the channel grow. And as always, thank you for watching.